Hey everyone, this is Vaishali, and this video is going to be about JSON Web Tokens. What are these? How do they look like? And how do they work? So, we are going to see that through a small demonstration, and we could have a basic idea about it. So, let's begin. Now, when I speak about JSON Web Tokens, it is used in token based authentication. So what is token-based authentication? It is a type of authentication technique for securing our APIs. So I can say that it's a protocol where the user, it requests an access to the API by passing on the user credentials to the server. The server verifies it and then issues an unique access token, which is signed digitally with the help of a secret key or a pair of public or private key, and then it passes on to the user. This token is stored in the browser storage, and whenever the user makes a request, it is accompanied with this signed token, which is again verified on the server side. And only after the verification, the server serves the request, otherwise, it won't serve the request. So, this is the basic idea of token based authentication. And many developers, when working with token based authentication, they use JSON Web Tokens. So, what are these JSON Web Tokens? JSON Web Tokens are an open standard which provide us secure sharing of resources between two parties. In our case, say it's client and the server. Okay, and these tokens, they are digitally signed with the help of secret key. Now, how do they look like? It consists of three parts. First is the header, second is the payload, and the third is the signature. All right. So when I speak about header, it consists of two things. First is the type of the token. So when I say type, it's JWT, and the second is the algorithm. The algorithm is the algorithm that we use while generating the JSON Web Token. And this whole thing is base 64 URL encoded, and that becomes the first part of our JWT. Then comes the payload. It consists of claims. Now, what are claims? These are the statements about the entities. Now, in our case, it's the user. So it will contain some confidential information about the user. And this thing is also the base 64 URL encoded, and that will form the second part of our web token. And the next thing is the signature. Now, this whole token, it is signed with the help of a secret key. So we need a secret key too. So all these things are binded together, and that forms our JSON Web Token. So it looks like header dot payload dot signature. All right. So this is base 64 URL encoded JWT token. And we can also visualize it as x-axis, that is going to be our header dot YYY, that is going to be our payload and the signature. So this is how it will look, and we will see that in our demonstration. So let's go to our index.js file, and here I've already connected my server to the database and also written the required code for starting my server. Also, for generating the JSON Web Token, we need to install a package, and I've already installed the package called JSON Web Token, as you can see here. And also, for demonstration purpose, I have created an index.html page file over here. We will see to that, but first let's start our server. So I'll just go to my folder first, and I'll run the command npm run dev. So as you can see, I have connected to the database and my server has also started. So let's go to the browser and see our client side. So I'm just going to go to the port http localhost 88. That's already there. As you can see here, this is what I've written in my index.html file, which is the form, and it's a button. So we are going to pass the username and password over here to our form. And only when we pass our username and password, we are going to log in our page. And after logging in, we should be able to see our data when I click on the button. If I'm not logged in, we are not able to see the data. So let's click here. And as you can see here, I'm not logged in. That's why I'm not able to see the data. So first we will write the code for making the user log in our page. So let's get back to our VS Code. And let's write a code for that in our controllers. Okay. So yeah, first I'm going to import the JWT from our Json Web Token module. And the next thing, I'm going to also import the user model that I have already created in my database. So let's import that too. Okay, let's create a function. Let's say it's login user. So const login user. And it's going to be an async function. So async request from a response. And then we are going to get the username and password from the form that we created. So const username, comma password is equal to request.body. All right. And if there is no password, so not username, or there is no data. So if not username or not password, we're just going to send the status as please provide required information. All right, so I will send that in the message. Please provide required information. And now let's create a try and catch block over here. So if we get any error, we'll just console.log that error. And I'm going to pass a message in the response saying something went wrong. So rest.status 500.json message something went wrong. All right. Now, once we get our username and password, I'm just going to create a user over here to the user model. So const user is equal to new user. And I'm just going to pass the request.body as it is in the object. So here our user is created. So I'll save it saying user.save. And once my user is saved in the database, I'm just going to grab on my ID. So const ID is equal to user.id. And now we are going to generate a token over here once the user is created. So for generating the token, I'll write const token is equal to JWT.sign. Now the first thing we'll pass over here is the payload. And in my payload, I'm just going to pass two things, that is the ID and the username. So we need to keep this payload as short as possible for better user experience. Like for example, imagine a user that is in a very bad network area and he or she is not able to log in just because the payload is large and the token is not generated quickly. So that's not good. So it's better to keep the payload short. And the next thing is we are going to pass a secret key. So I'm declaring my secret key over here. So const secret key is equal to, let's keep it JWT test. All right. So this secret key is not declared here. It is declared in the env file, .env file, but for the demonstration purpose, I have kept it, declared it over here. And also these keys are not this small. They are too long and complex, but for understanding purpose, let's keep it short and sweet. So I'm just going to pass this secret key here the parameters, and also we need a predefined claim that is expires in. So I'm going to keep my token valid only for 2 hours. All right. So we need to keep this expire time as small as possible because this will limit the time of the attacker to hack our data. That's why we need to keep the time span of our token as small as possible. And also the user can access the API only within this time. Once the token gets invalid, the user is not able to access. So let's pass this generated token into our response. So I'll write rest.status 201.json. I'll pass the message as user is created. So user is created, and also I'll pass the token. All right. Now to see how our token looks like, I'm going to console.log in the terminal so that you can see it. So yeah, let's export our function first. So I'm just going to write here module.exports is equal to login user. And let's create a route for this. So in my routes file, I'm first going to import the router from my express module. So const router is equal to require express. And also I'm going to import the function that we created. So const login user is equal to require. That was in our controllers file. So $/controllers/main. And next thing, I'm just going to initialize my router. So const router is equal to router. And now let's create a route for that. So it's going to be a post request. So router.post and / login user. All right. Yeah, it's done. Let's export this too. So module exports is equal to login user, right? And let's go back to our index.js file. We are going to import that over here. So const, I can say it's the user routes. So user routes is equal to require, and then it's in / it's in routes folder. So routes and /main. All right. Now I'm going to use it over here. So app.use. I'll say login, user routes. Let me show the script of my file first. Now what I've done is here, like when I get the username and password, I make the URL that we just created. And in the response, we are going to get the token that is generated, and that we are going to store it in our browser storage. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to go back to my browser. This is my browser. And let me show you the local storage over here. So let's open that application. So as you can see here, there is nothing in my local storage. This means I'm not logged in. So for logging in, I need to provide my username and password. And when that is passed on with my post request, we are going to generate a token which is passed in the response, and that is going to get stored over here in my local storage. So let me put my username and password over here, right? And submit. Now, as you can see here, the token is generated and it is stored in my local storage. We should be able to see the token in our terminal too. So let's have a look at that. So here, as you can see here, my token is also generated and it is separated by 3 dots. The first part is the header, which is base64 URL encoded. The entire part is base64 URL encoded. The second part is the payload, and the third part is the signature. You will be able to visualize it properly when you will decode it. All right. So once we have logged in, now when I click that button in our client side, we should be able to see the data. So let's write a code for that too. So I'll just write a function called const greet user is equal to, that is going to be a async function too. So async request comma response, and let's create a try and catch block over here too. Oh god, what's this? So try and catch. All right, and I'm going to copy the same thing over here, console.log error and this thing. So command C, and I'm just going to pass in the response that user is authenticated for now. So rest.status 200.json message user is authenticated. All right, this is done. Now what we are going to do, we are going to export this function too. So login user comma create user. All right, and I'm going to make a get request. I'm going to create a route for this too in our routes folder. So let's import that function first over here. So login user comma create user, and let's make a get request over here to get the data. What are we getting in the data? User is authenticized. So router.get is going to be slash user comma, and we're going to pass create user over here. All right. I'm just going to export the router that we created over here. I'm sorry. So it should be like this. All right. So this is going to be the thing. And now what we are going to do is, for the verification of the token, first I'll show you my script in the index.html file. So when we click on the button, the token that is stored in our storage, we are going to grab that token, and while making a get request on the URL that we created, we are going to send that in the request headers along with the bearer schema. And this token we are going to verify in our middleware on the server side. And once that is verified, we should be able to see the data. If it is not verified, we are not going to see the data in our client side. Okay, so let's create an authentication middleware for that. I'm going to go to my middleware, and for the authentication purpose, I need JWT. So let's import that. So const JWT is equal to require Json Web Token. All right, and also I'm going to need the secret key that we just declared in our controllers file. Remember that it is not declared like this, but for understanding purpose, we are declaring it here only. It is written in .env file. All right, so let's create the middleware. Let's say it is authentication, or we can say it is auth middleware. All right, and let's write request comma res comma next. And we are just going to grab that header that we passed while making a request on the client side. So I'm just going to write const auth header. Oh my God. Const auth header is equal to, it's going to be request dot headers dot authorization. All right, and I'm just going to console.log this header for now, so that you should see how does it actually look like. So console.log auth header. All right, and next. And I'm going to export this middleware too. So module dot exports is equal to auth middleware. Now let me go back to my root file. OMG. Yes, I am. All right, now it's good. Let me go to my route file. And in my route file, I'm going to import the middleware that we just created. Const auth is equal to require dot slash middleware slash auth. All right. And this we are going to pass it over here. So before serving our greet user request, it is going to pass to this middleware that we just created, and it will console.log the header over here. All right. So let's go back to our browser. Now remember, the token here in the local storage indicates that I'm logged in. Now when I'm clicking here, it should console.log the header through our middleware and then serve the request, and we should see user is authenticated in our response over here. And while making this request, we are going to pass this token in the headers of our request along with the bearer schema. All right, so let's click over here. Now, as you can see here, we are able to see the data user is authenticated. This means our token is verified. All right, and this does not mean our token is verified. This just means that the token is sent in the header section and we are able to see the authentication header in our terminal. Now, as you can see here, the authentication header, it is a string which has bearer, space, and then token. So I'll just show you here if you're not able to see in the terminal, but it actually looks like this. It's bearer and then space and the whole token that is generated. So it looks like this, and we are going to extract this token and verify that. Okay, so let's write a code for that. So I'm just going to comment this. And first of all, I'm just going to say that if there is no auth header, all right, if there is no auth header, just say that res.status res.status 400.json, and I can say that the token is not provided, right? So token is not provided. And also we can also say that if my auth header does not start with bearer. So I'll just write here, if my auth header does not starts with bearer. So yeah. And now I'm going to extract the token from my header. So I'll write const token is equal to auth header dot split with the help of space. Now this is going to return me an array which will consist of two elements, that is the bearer and the token. So the token is going to be the second element. So I'll just write here index 1. And once we get a token, we will have a try and catch block over here. So catch error, and I'm going to console.log this error over here. I'm going to console.log this error over here. And I'll just send a response that something went wrong. So 500.json message, something went wrong. All right. And now I'm going to decode my token. So how are we going to decode? I'll just say const decoded data, or I can say decoded token is equal to JWT dot verify, and then I'm going to pass my token over here that we extracted, and also the secret key that we declared initially. All right. And once we get this decoded data, that means our token is verified. And I'm just going to console.log over here so that we can see the decoded token and what do we have in it. All right. So let's go back to the browser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out first so that this will clear my local storage of the browser. So log out. Now, as you can see here, my local storage is cleared. and this means I'm not logged in right now. So let's log in again and make a request over here again. Now we should see the decoded data in our terminal and what do we have in it, all right? So I'm just going to log in again. Now, as you can see here, there is token in my local storage. This means I'm logged in, and now I'm going to click here. So when I click here, as you can see, we have got the decoded data in our terminal over here, and it consists of, I'll just copy this and I'll show you in the comment section over here. Command V. So this is the decoded data that we got about our token. And what does this consist? This consists the ID and username that we passed in our payload, and IAT. IAT means when is the token issued, and EXP means the time when the token is going to get expired. So these things we are going to have in our decoded data. And when we have these things, we are good to go. This means our token is verified, and then our request is going to get served. So what we'll do is we'll just extract ID and username from our decoded data, and we will display it in our client side. All right, so let's write a code for that. I'm just going to delete over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extract the ID and username that we get in our decoded data after verification. And I'll just say request.user is equal to ID comma username. And then I'm going to write next over here. I forgot before to put next over here. All right, this is important. And in the main.js file, when the token is verified, I'll pass on the message as, instead of user is authenticated, I will say hello plus the username. So hello dollar request dot user dot username. This should show me my username in the client side. So let's go back to our browser and go through the whole thing again. So I'm just going to refresh this page, clear my local storage. So we have nothing in my local storage. I'm not logged in. And what is the process? That first we are going to make a request over here, post request, that is going to pass my username and password. The token is going to be generated, and that is going to get stored in my local storage in the browser. And next, when I make a request after logging in, it is going to pass my token in the headers, and that is going to get verified through the middleware. And once it is verified, we should see our data over here, that is hello plus my username. All right, so let's log in first. So I'm logging in and submit. Now, as you can see here, there is the token in my local storage. This means I am logged in. Now, when I click here, I should be able to see hello. So as you can see here, hello Vaishali, I'm able to see. This means my token is verified. And once I click log out over here, yes, my local storage is cleared and I'm logged out. So in this way, we can verify the user credentials each time the user makes a request after logging in. And this way we can secure our API before exposing the data to any third party, or without, confirming the user has valid credentials or not. So these JSON Web Tokens are very helpful and easy to use. I hope you get how to use the JSON Web Tokens through the small tutorial. And we'll also speak about the refresh tokens in the upcoming videos. Till then, have a nice day.